Parts 1, 2 and 3 of the Subsidies Agreement discipline the use of subsidies by WTO members. The trigger for applying the Subsidies Agreement is the provision of a financial contribution by a government or public body. The focus, therefore, is on the actions of governments and public bodies. The actions of private bodies generally fall outside the scope of the Subsidies Agreement. However, a WTO member might seek to evade the disciplines of the Subsidies Agreement by entrusting or directing private bodies to provide subsidies on behalf of the government. For example, a government ministry might require ostensibly private banks to provide loans to particular enterprises at below market rates, under threat of some punitive action. The question arises as to whether or not the Subsidies Agreement would apply in such cases. Subparagraphs 1 to 3 of Article 11A1 of the Subsidies Agreement provide a list of financial contributions that would be covered by the Subsidies Agreement when provided by a government or public body. Subparagraph 4 of the same provision further provides that the same acts of financial contribution shall also be covered by the Subsidies Agreement even when they are provided by private bodies, provided that such private bodies have been entrusted or directed by their governments to do so. Thus, provided the government has entrusted or directed the private bodies to act, seemingly private conduct may be attributable to a government for purposes of applying the Subsidies Agreement. In this respect, subparagraph 4 acts as an anti-circumvention mechanism, designed to ensure that the disciplines of the Subsidies Agreement are not evaded by governments acting indirectly through private rather than public channels. So, under what circumstances might a government properly be found to have entrusted or directed a private body to provide a financial contribution? This question is first answered by considering the legal meaning of the concepts of entrustment and direction. Thereafter, one must consider how, as a matter of fact, the existence of entrustment or direction might be established. Regarding the legal interpretation of the relevant concepts, WTO case law has established that a government entrusts a private body to act when the government gives the private body responsibility for that action. A government directs a private body when the government exercises its authority over the private body. As for the evidentiary issue of demonstrating the existence of government entrustment or direction, each case must be considered on its facts. While it is difficult to provide evidentiary guidelines in the abstract, there must at a minimum be a demonstrable link between the government and the conduct of the private body. Proof of an explicit instruction from the government to the private body would clearly satisfy this evidentiary requirement. However, since a government would likely choose to act through a private body precisely in order to evade the disciplines of the Subsidies Agreement, it is unlikely that a government would do so explicitly. A more informal means of entrustment or direction would likely be employed. WTO case law has established that in order to demonstrate government entrustment or direction, there is no need for an evidentiary smoking gun, such as a letter from a minister explicitly instructing a private body to provide a financial contribution. Rather, the existence of entrustment or direction might be implied from various pieces of circumstantial evidence. Even if each piece of circumstantial evidence is not sufficient to demonstrate government entrustment or direction in and of itself, the existence of entrustment or direction might still be inferred from reviewing the various pieces of circumstantial evidence in light of one another. However, one would normally expect there to be proof of some form of threat or inducement by the government. Thus, the private body's compliance should normally be shown to entail some reward, or the private body's failure to act in the desired way should be shown to give rise to some adverse consequence. To conclude, therefore, there is no doubt that the Subsidies Agreement does cover situations in which governments seek to evade their obligations by acting through private body proxies. In practice, though, establishing the existence of government entrustment or direction will often require a careful weighing of circumstantial evidence. Thank you.